Welcome to the Victory and Reseda Quarterly Report and Podcast. This is episode 6 for spring 2024. We're your hosts. I'm George Torline.
And I'm Randy Stern.
And on this episode, we'll be talking about the all-new Lexus TX. We'll also talk about a new 3-row SUV that happens to be electric. But first, let's talk about the 2024 Midwest Automotive Media Association Spring Rally and some of the vehicles there.
Absolutely. Now, every year, as members of MAMA, we do attend the Spring Rally out at Road America, which is, of course, a 4+ mile road course, probably one of the most well-known in this country, home to various different racing, such as IndyCar and NASCAR and IMSA. However, for 2 days, it belongs to us. From there, we're able to take, in this year, over 80 vehicles, either on the race course or out on the streets outside of the property, or at a off-road course that's tucked away in the corner of the property as well.
Two of them.
There are 2 courses, but it's within one big section. So you either go through the moguls or you don't. Now, we also do some karting out on the karting course where the next day it turns into an autocross.
Right. They take some of our sportier vehicles that are at the rally and they put them on the kart track, which is kind of fun.
Not all of them, though. Only the ones that actually fit on that course.
True. It is a little tight for full-size cars.
Absolutely. Why don't we get into some of the vehicles that we had an experience with that we liked above all the 80+ vehicles that were available to us?
This year had quite an interesting spectrum of choices. So it was hard to pick. Some of the vehicles that stood out for me was the 2024 BMW M3 Competition. It had plentiful power, even up at the higher speeds, 70, 80 miles an hour. If you wanted to ask for more power, it would deliver. It puts it down in a way that it's nice and smooth. It has wonderful suspension, and the seats hold you in. It's just a fun car to drive. So I really enjoyed that.
It's isn't that the more hardcore version of the M3?
It is. I don't know if I'd want to use that as a daily, but I guess if you want to be hardcore, you could daily that. Sure.
Okay.
Also, the 2025 Toyota Crown Signia, the wagon, or I think people are asking, what is it? Is it a wagon? Is it a SUV? Is it what is it? So it's really kind of a nice package that it's replacing the Toyota Venza, but it's unique in a way that it has more versatility than what first appears, because with that extended roof line, you can put roof racks up there, and I believe Toyota is planning on a variety of accessories that could be put up there, so you can carry things up there. But the space in the back that they've created for cargo area, you can lay the seats down in the back to give you 6.5 feet of cargo length,
which translates to up to 68.8 cubic feet
of cargo area.
Yes.
Nice. It's kind of a compelling vehicle because it has more utility than what it looks like. So I think it's going to be a good seller for them.
And by the way, if you look up to the corner of our screen, you can link to our video on the Crown Signia. Now, there's a couple things that we didn't get when we were shooting the video and editing the video. I do actually have the pricing for it. Pricing does start from $43,590, which is a little bit up there. But then again, you have to consider what it will eventually replace, which will be the Venza. Now, it is lower than the Venza. It's got more cargo space than the Venza. It's going to be an interesting product because there's been some talk in other channels about how this is actually longer than the Highlander.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but the difference between the Highlander and this is that the hybrid standard on the Crown Signia. So it's going to be a very interesting slot for Toyota. But I have a good feeling that if some people need an alternative to the Highlander and definitely need more space than even a Venza, the Crown Signia is it.
And to mention too, again, with the roof area, is that it's not a big, tall SUV. So getting access to the roof area is quite easy because it's not a tall SUV. So that's kind of a nice advantage there. Hopefully we'll get one to do a longer term review coming up in the future because what we had was a preview drive, so we didn't get much time with it. But it'd be nice to get a thorough test drive with that, even though it is based on the Crown sedan. But it'd be nice to really thoroughly check out some of its features in its current form.
Absolutely. You know how much I love the Crown sedan.
It is a nice sedan.
It is, especially in the platinum.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Other things that I liked, of course, it was the first time for me in a Rolls-Royce. So I got a chance to check out the 2024 Spectre, which is their first all-electric offering. It brings a new definition to wafting because you've got a quiet, solid vehicle to begin with. You add electrification to it, and it just silently glides down the road in luxury. It's really quite the vehicle.
I have to admit that for every year I've worked at the Mama Spring Rally, I would be the one driving the Rolls, and this is your first time driving a Rolls. I'm so happy for you.
Well, thanks.
Because now you get to experience what this brand is all about. More importantly, the fact that this particular car, the Spectre, even though it's a coupe, this is exactly what the founders of this company had in mind for what they consider the perfect vehicle that is quiet, effortless, and just absolutely magnificent. That's exactly what they had in mind, and took them about over 100 years to get to it, but it does look stunning, especially in that all monotone black.
Yes, the tester that we had with the black exterior to it. The interesting fact, the grille on that is the widest Rolls-Royce grille of any Rolls-Royce in the past.
Absolutely. Yes, I was amazed by the width of that grille. But then again, that is a trademark of this brand. And, of course, they still have the Spirit of Ecstasy that pops up from behind the grille.
I think we got some video footage of that, so we may be seeing some video of that coming up on our channel. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
So, Randy, what did you like what stood out for you at the rally?
Well, actually, a little bit different than your experiences. First things first, I want to talk about the 2025 Toyota Camry. Now, everyone knocks the Camry for being boring, milquetoast, not the most exciting vehicle in the world. However, I can tell you that the 2025 model is going to knock your socks off. The car is completely improved. Even though they use the same platform, one of the big improvements is that although it's an all-hybrid model, they did improve the hybrid drive system. And this is the first time they're adding all-wheel drive to the hybrid system. So now you have a choice of front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive across all four trims. Now, the version I drove was the front-wheel drive version of the XSE, which is the top sport model. What they do with the XSE is they tweak the suspension a little bit more towards a sporting drive signature, and that actually works. What I was very excited to see was the improvements in the exterior. It looks a lot sharper. It's more in line of the latest Toyota products. Interior, same thing. I mean, everything is just completely improved on the Camry. So no one can accuse this for being boring this time around, especially when you get down to the LE model. It's going to have the same drive lines. There's no choice between anything else. I mean, you can get an all-wheel drive LE with a hybrid, and I believe pricing has been controlled, yet they have not been, we do not have that in front of us at this time. So the other one is another BMW. Now, previously I had a brief drive in the i5 M60, which is the electric version of the 5 Series. This time around, they brought the eDrive 40, which is lower powered version of the M60. It's not full M Sport. It's just an absolutely nice 5 Series that's electric. Very well appointed. Very well appointed. Just a nice driver. And it shows where BMW is actually going, even though everyone looks at the M's, whether it's an M Performance that's been added to current series. But the thing is, the true essence of BMW is that they're going to entice you with an M model. But while they entice you with the M model, there's other models that are available for less money that will satisfy you and has that same type of driving signature you expect in a BMW. And that's what I came away from the i5 Drive 40. That's a mouthful, by the way. So now the other one I drove has been something I'm going to admit something. Okay, we get to drive a lot of trucks, right? So especially in the midsize. And there's a lot of product that I'm anticipating wanting to review. And I have some experience with one of the new products. So Nissan has the Frontier, which is a really wonderful V6 powered midsize pickup truck, one of the few that is left. However, what they did was for 2024, they have a special edition called a hard body. Now that kind of struck me a little bit because back in 1987, I bought a brand new hard body pickup truck, the base model. At that time, they had the 4-wheel drive king cab and with these alloy wheels that are geometric and that was so cool. They brought back those wheels for this hard body edition. Now, it's not about the exterior package and whatnot. And luckily, these seats are not that cloth-esque vinyl that I had in my old truck. However, I will say that the essence of that old king cab 4-wheel drive version is reborn in this hard body edition. I love shagging that thing. I found an old off-road trail right by where our drive area was set up. I decided to follow that trail. And I'll tell you what, that's where you really enjoy the Frontier as it is, especially if you get a Pro 4X or even its hard body edition. The off-road prowess on this truck is really darn good. So that was probably the most satisfying drive I've had. Now, there's other vehicles we've drove, too many to list, like you said, but we figured we'd give you our highlights. But I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that Polaris brought 2 Slingshots to our event. Not exactly a car, but it was something of a deviation for us. And both of us got a chance to drive it.
Right. You did the automatic and I drove the manual.
Uh-huh.
And that was a lot of fun. You got that 2-liter 4-cylinder motor up front, driving that single rear wheel. It adds to the fun. You can do a little hoonery with it, but it's for the power to weight ratio on that, it propels that thing down the road very well. So it's aptly named Slingshot.
Well, you and I will admit, I can't believe we both fit in that thing too.
Yeah.
With helmets. It's required to wear a helmet when you drive a Slingshot, just so you know.
Yeah. But you still have a good idea of your vehicle dimensions. You can see where the wheels are, and you have a good understanding of where you are on the road with that vehicle. And I thought the steering was good, and it was just a lot of fun.
Not only that, but you also get an infotainment screen in there as well, which is kind of a wild thing to see. Mm-hmm. The other thing, let's make a mention, because we are based in Minnesota, it's always good to see a Minnesota-based company to be a part of this media confab. So I am so happy to see the people. Shout out to the people of Polaris for representing our state at that event.
Yeah, it was way cool to see a local entity like Polaris at the event. So
absolutely.
It was cool. All right, so let's talk about our fleet update of our vehicles for long-term use. Since the last recording, we did winter was our last podcast and report. We've switched over from the winter wheels to our summer and all-season tires that we have for them. Looking at the V&R machine, the 2021 Mazda CX-5, that's really running well for us. We're using it a lot for errands. We also drove that to the Midwest Automotive Media Association rally out in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin at Road America. Some statistics on it. Let's see. Looks like we drove it about 3,200 miles. And over that 3,200 miles, we averaged about 25.4 miles to the gallon. Not sure if that should be a little bit higher, but still not complaining for what it is. We did get a low oil message, but I believe that is from after the oil change that I put in the vehicle. I may not have filled it quite high enough. So that's what I'm leaning towards that being the case, but we'll monitor that. But also during the period, the Golf R said, hey, I want some attention here. And its battery decided to give up, so on to replacing the battery on that. So the existing battery on that came from Volkswagen, so it's about a 5-year-old battery, of course, is an EFB, or enhanced flooded battery. They put those into vehicles that have stop-start rather than just a plain lead acid. It is a lead acid, but there's some variations to that to help provide more power for the stop-start. But they don't provide those anymore to the dealerships. It's now the AGMs, or the absorbent glass mat batteries, which have a little bit different construction between the positive and negative poles. There's like some glass matting or something to help with the way it works. So I'm not going to get into details because I don't really fully understand it. But nonetheless, but with that change, you have to go into the vehicle's coding to tell it, hey, now you've got a different kind of battery, and this is the capacity of the battery. So it will expect certain voltages from the battery and to what extent the charge characteristics are. So we plugged in with the VAGCOM cable, programmed in the updated battery information, and it's been great ever since. So hopefully that'll last us at least another 5 years.
Let's hope so too. I want to bring up a tip for those of you, including ourselves, that have multiple vehicles in our fleet. This tip actually comes from Tim Burton, who we know as Shmee150, as in, hi guys, I'm Shmee. Anyway, sorry, Tim, I had to make fun of you. Well, you can get us back. He has multiple vehicles in his fleet, so it's a good example. But what he tells people who watch his channel is that they are driven, each one of them is driven at least once a month.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and therefore the reason is to keep the oil and the fluids flowing, tires at pressure, etc. You know, so you don't leave a vehicle stagnant for like multiple months, and therefore oil will sit at the bottom of the pan and there's no circulation. Gas as well, very important when you have vehicles that's already got fuel in it. So to keep the vehicle's arteries and veins flowing, and you probably understand what I'm talking about here, it will save you in the long run.
Yeah, that's a good point. One other change that we have is we updated the radar detector at least that I use in the Golf R and in the V&R machine. I've been using the Escort MAX 360C, and it's been a good little detector. I like the arrows, so you get an idea of which way the radar is coming from, but it picked up a lot of alerts from blind spot monitoring systems, and in particular, in the Mazda CX-5. So we're going down the road in the CX-5, and this thing goes off every, 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's activating the blind spot monitoring, and it just wasn't useful in the CX-5. So we updated it to the Max 360 Mark II that Escort has, and they've incorporated technology in here to deal with the blind spot false notifications. And so we had this on during our drive out to Road America and across Wisconsin. I mean, how many times did you hear this go off?
Not as much as the older unit.
Absolutely. So it made a big improvement. So I'm glad that that we made this update, because now the notifications are a little bit more legit. It made me wonder, whose blind spot monitoring system are we picking up in the vehicles that are around us, or our own for that matter? So if you have a CX-5, definitely consider updating the radar detector to not have those false notifications.
Or if you run into a situation for which your vehicle has the same scenario as the older Escort unit, again, take a look at the newer one.
That's right.
All right.
Well, let's take a look at some of the vehicles that we have not reviewed with videos yet.
I want to start with the Kia EV9 because everyone's been talking about it because it's been winning awards. So far it's won the World Car of the Year and also the North American Utility of the Year. So obviously the attention's been shown on Kia and what they've been doing with the eGMP platform. So this is a 3-row SUV, which means that some thought that this might replace the Telluride, our Voti 19. However, we're going to talk about a few differences between the two. In fact, the EV9's got a longer wheelbase than the Telluride, even though it's about the same length. So it's a very interesting vehicle. Now, this has 2 motors, so it's rated at 379 horsepower with 516 pound-feet of torque, and a larger battery than its eGMP brethren, so it's at 99.8 kilowatt hours instead of 77.4, which is top on, say, EP6 or Ioniq 5 and 6, and also the GV60. Now, it's really an interesting vehicle. I'm just going to say that. It rides very well, very smooth. It's heavier. Matter of fact, it's thud heavy. That's the only complaint I got. The other sort of complaint is that the model we got, which was the GT line, is a 6-seater. Now, the Telluride's 3rd row sits 3. This one only sits 2. So replacement for the Telluride? I think not. However, the EV9 is very influential because we're seeing all revised or new models taking on the same design language as the EV9, even the ICE models across Kia's lineup. We saw it in the Carnival. We're seeing it in the Sorento, the
K5
even the K5, correct. The EV9 is a really solid vehicle. But, is it worth the awards? Well, if you're spending that kind of money, sure.
Yeah, I drove one at the Spring Rally, and yeah, I thought it drove very nice. I didn't really feel a lot of heft and weight behind it. Maybe if you flog it around a little bit, you'll feel it, but just in regular, civilized daily driving, it's fine. I think they've tuned it in such a way that it's a very easy vehicle to live with. It does have some feel of that eGMP platform. So if you've driven some of the others, you'll feel some of it still, even in this, the EV9. But no, I can see why it's winning awards.
And also, did you notice that they're using the same type of transmission actuator as in the Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, Kona? It's the first time I've seen that in a Kia.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, I can see why it's winning the awards, and it's a really nice vehicle.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of 3-row SUVs, you and I had a chance to drive this next one, which is the 2024 Lexus TX. Now, the version we had was the TX 550H Plus, which is the plug-in hybrid. And this is an exclusive driveline to this particular model because, as people will point out, it shares the same platform as the Toyota Grand Highlander. Now, that's not a bad thing. However, I will tell you, Lexus did a better job of executing the same bigger 3-row mid-size SUV than the Toyota. Sorry, Toyota, but there are reasons. I mean, the interior is elevated, much better quality inside. The exterior is a little bit more distinctive. You could tell that's a Lexus. Even though you're not seeing the spindle grille as traditionally on other Lexuses, they integrated that into the front clip. The badge is on top of the front clip this time instead of on the grill. Lexus is tuned to be much more comfortable and a much better driver, especially with that driveline. It did very well for us.
Yeah, and what I found was over the Toyota version is the steering in this was, I thought, smoother and more controlled. It just seemed to really want to go where you want it to go. It didn't feel like it pulled or tugged. They must have done something with the steering, and it shows.
I would agree that I think they did some other tuning as well, especially the suspension setup and everything. It's just really much better. Now, I will let you know that, yes, it's going to cost, the Lexus TS will cost you more than the Grand Highlander. But for that extra money, you're getting a little bit more quality, Lexus-style quality, Lexus-style drive. It's definitely worth a look. Mm-hmm. And if you are considering the other two Lexus SUVs with 3 rows, you're going to find that the TX is a lot more spacious, roomier. It will accommodate even adults in that 3rd row versus, say, the LX or the GX.
Yeah, there's a little bit more room in the back to accommodate that.
Absolutely. I have one more vehicle.
Okay.
And this is going to surprise a bunch of folks. I had a chance to drive a Ford F350 Super Duty in the King Ranch version.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit. So normally when I get a heavy-duty pickup truck, it's usually a 3/4 ton. And 3/4 ton has certain payload and towing limits. I mean, it's just right in the middle between it and a 1/2 ton and a full ton. This one's a full ton. So let me throw the numbers at you. It came with the Power Stroke diesel, and it put down 1,200 pound-feet of torque.
Wow.
I mean, that's like turning the earth. There's a lot of torque it puts down. We got the 4-wheel drive version with a single rear wheel. So no, we didn't get a dually, but we got probably some that may be a challenge to fit in some parking spaces. But other than that, I talked about towing and payload. So let me work my way backwards. Payload on this particular unit was 4,400 pounds. If you do conventional towing, which is by the the ball at the end, its maximum limit is 27,000 pounds.
Wow.
Now, if you did a gooseneck or a 5th wheel, that goes up to 31,000 pounds.
Dang.
Yeah. That's why you want to have the Power Stroke with the 1,200 pound of torque, because if you're looking to haul much more than, say, an Airstream, I mean, like farm implements, for example, or a construction equipment, you want to have that configuration. Mm-hmm. And it's a big old thing because the wheelbase is over 159 inches. Now, you can get bigger because there is a configuration that Ford has where you get the crew cab or Super Crew, and then you add an 8-foot box, and the wheelbase will go up to 176 inches.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. This one is the shorter. It's a shorter bed. It's still got the Super Crew. And, of course, it's cowboy luxury because it's a King Ranch. Now, I got to admit that as heaty as this thing is, this thing's a hoot. I mean, you're going down the road and you're scaring the living daylights out of normal traffic in downtown, wherever, or somewhere in the suburbs. But then when you get away from a little bit to the outer suburbs and onto the rural communities, oh, you're just riding like a king, riding like you own property. These 1-ton heavy-duty pickup trucks are built for a reason, and that is if you're doing a lot of towing at those numbers and at that payload rating, that's the type of vehicle you need. If you're just towing a race car, you need just a 3/4 ton heavy duty pickup truck. That's all you need, really. I mean, you can get a 1/2 ton, get away with it. But if you're doing by distance and by, or if you're doing by terrain, such as, you're going up and down the Rocky Mountains, I wouldn't recommend with a 1/2 ton. Just go 3/4 ton at minimum. Because most of our, listeners and watchers and readers, they're in sport, they're in the racing, they're in sports cars. So they think, oh, I can get a full ton and I would be the king of the racetrack. No, you're not, folks. Just get a 3/4 ton, okay?
Right. There's no need to go overkill, but you need to have, depending on what you're hauling, you need to have the right tools for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm going to throw something in here. We had a rental car roulette.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had a trip down to Phoenix and spun the wheel of the rental car roulette. I asked for a standard vehicle.
Again.
And what did I get?
Not a standard vehicle.
Exactly. So they offered me a full-sized vehicle, which was a 2023 Hyundai Sonata. And was the trim on that an SE, you thought?
I thought it was an SE because it looked pretty base.
Yeah.
I think the determiner between SE and SEL is usually what the seat upholstery is.
This had the cloth seats, which for Phoenix, I really appreciated because it was 105 most days I was there. And with the cloth seats, you had no troubles just jumping in after it's been sitting out in the sun. So, and the AC worked fine. It cruised along the freeways just fine, returned about 35 miles to the gallon, which is really good.
That's a record for a Sonata that we've worked with.
I just got to mention the traffic and this freeways on Phoenix is insane because you have people that are just flying down the left lanes, even the middle lanes, and people are weaving between the lanes, and you got people tailgating, and it's just insane. So I can just fathom that if there's an accident, it's not going to be good because people are just going to just pile up on each other because people are just way over the top when they're driving there.
Which explains why Adam and Pa live out there now.
That it's something you need to get used to. But then coming back to the Twin Cities, it's much more civilized, and you just don't see much of that. So it's very different.
Yeah, it's a different kind of driving out here than it is in Phoenix. Phoenix is that everybody thinks they're at the NASCAR races, and not as bad as say in the Mid-Atlantic states down to the Carolinas, where they think they are driving like NASCAR.
Yeah.
But
I didn't really see much in the way of like state troopers or police out on the interstates around Phoenix. So it could be just people think they can just get away with it, and just lack of accountability may be a factor in there, that just people assume that they can just do that because they won't get caught.
And our apologies to our listeners in the state of Arizona that we hope you don't take this as a bad criticism. It's our experience. So, and I haven't been in a state in a long time, but I'm going through your experiences going back and forth to Phoenix on occasion.
These opinions are expressly the opinions of George Torline and not necessarily the Victory and Reseda and blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that's really all we have for this episode. And you got anything else, Randy?
Yes, I do. Just so you know we don't cover everything in this podcast because we're getting a lot of vehicles in to work with. Most of them we've already had videos shot for them or have already been produced, reviews that's already been written, awards that's already been given to them. But we do have some new vehicles that are new to us vehicles that are coming in the weeks ahead that we can't wait to shoot these videos and get them out to you.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to watch our YouTube channel. Of course, it's Victory and Reseda. And as always, look at our online website. That's victoryandreseda.com. net with the "and" spelled out.
Absolutely. And don't forget, if you're listening to us on the podcast and you have not subscribed, go ahead and do so. You'll be notified via your podcast app to let you know the new episodes coming out as well. Not to mention, we have social media channels. So we're on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on LinkedIn. We hope you also follow and like in those channels. We rebroadcast our content from the website and from our YouTube channel onto those as well.
Yes, just one of the many different media outlets that the content that we produce can be viewed. All right, so with that, we'll wrap this episode up. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video and the next podcast.
So long, everybody.
Bye now.